Hey everyone, welcome to this presentation of user perceptions of security and privacy for group chat. My name is Oesch, and I co-authored this paper with Ruba Abu-Salma, Oumar Diallo, Juliane Krämer, James Simmons, Justin Yu, and Scott Ruoti. Secure messaging is an integral part of modern society. There are over 3 billion users on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and WeChat combined. Prior work has examined one-to-one secure chat and identified some substantial security and usability concerns. However, very little prior work has examined group chat. In fact, no prior work has looked at the security and privacy attitudes of users in the context of group chat. So that is the goal of this paper, is to see if there are any similar security and privacy issues in group chat, or if there are any new issues that have not been identified by prior literature. We had 3 core research goals. The first was to understand users' security and privacy perceptions about group chat. The second was to identify potential improvements that could be made to existing tools to make them better meet users' needs. And the third was to understand whether cultural differences impact users' perceptions and requirements for group chat. Next, we're going to discuss our methodology. So in order to answer these research questions, we designed a 44-question survey that explored tool usage, group dynamics, privacy, and security. This survey was enhanced via 10 cognitive interviews in which participants gave us feedback on the survey and we iterated on it, as well as feedback from other security and privacy researchers and our IRB consultant. There were 1,001 participants in the UK and the US, and we selected the UK and the US because of known differences in privacy attitudes between the US and Europe. 5 respondents were excluded due to a mostly blank survey, or respondents that simply did not answer the questions, leaving us with 996 valid responses. For our analysis, we conducted pair coding of open-ended questions by 2 researchers, in which each researcher assigned a code to each of the responses together. So this was done in unison, so there's no inter-rater reliability because any disagreements between the 2 researchers were settled as they were coding. Then we discussed our results as a team to identify significant themes in the data, as well as analyzing the data to look for statistical correlations that may be significant, and as well as conducting a clustering analysis on our responses. The demographics of our respondents were 58% female, 62% under 34, so overall on the younger side. 58% had completed education beyond high school, and 16% used group chat tools rarely. Now, this is interesting because it may indicate that there is a need to consider infrequent users when designing security and privacy features in group chat. There are several limitations to our study. The first is that users may have misrepresented their attitudes or behaviors, and future work should build on our results via diary studies, interviews, and/or direct observation. Each of these methods is known to complement the survey method, which is what we used in this study. In examining cross-cultural differences, we focused on the US and UK. Future work should broaden this analysis to include other cultures, such as Asia. Now we're going to take a look at our key results. Tool usage. So first, regarding tool usage, on the left you see a graph displaying the tools used. And the 2 main tools used by respondents were Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp, with WhatsApp being used primarily in the UK and Facebook Messenger equally in the UK and the US. Something else interesting to note in this graph is that security tools designed specifically for security, such as Signal and Viber, were not used very commonly. One potential reason for that can be seen in the graph on the right, which is reasons for adoption. Why do users choose to use specific group chat tools? And the main reason is that they use what other people use, whether that's their family or their friends or their coworkers, and this is something that's been noted in prior research as well. So most users pick a group chat tool based on what's convenient and based on what other people use. Some users also indicated usability, but as you can see, less than 1% of users said that security was a key concern. So what were some of the topics that respondents discussed? In the left, you can see that games, hobbies, social topics, work, health, politics, those were some of the main ones. You see a little spike there on games, but it turns out, for users in the US, but it turns out that's not statistically significant. What topics made users uncomfortable? Politics, religion, drug use, sexuality, nothing surprising there. Now, in this graph, you do see that respondents from the US were a little more sensitive to politics, religion, and sexuality. But after statistical correction for running multiple tests, that did not turn out to be statistically significant. So what were some of their likes and dislikes about group chat tools? Most users indicated that the two things they liked most about group chat tools is that they're simple or easy to use and that they're fast. The main dislikes were that there were too many messages to keep up with. Now in the research literature, this is called alert fatigue. The users were just overwhelmed with the number of alerts and messages they were receiving, and this can be a security concern because users who are overwhelmed and suffering from alert fatigue may ignore genuine alerts and security messages. Now, what were some of the privacy concerns that users had? The main concern was that in their group, they didn't know everyone in the group, and they were worried that they might share something that was private, and then that person that they didn't know might misuse that information, or maybe they accidentally share something they don't want that person to know. So that was the key privacy concern. But there were also fears of association, leaking personal info, and we're going to look at a few quotes to demonstrate those right now. So R803 said, I have been involved in anime fanfiction circles and was fearful of my writing being associated with my real name or identity. So that's fear of association. R735 said, a member of a Discord was screenshotting sensitive discussions and sharing them on social media. So that's leaking personal info. And then R584 indicated things I might have said to my friends or secrets regarding home issues. So again, leaking personal info or sharing without permission. Now, what did users think that security was? When they said a group chat tool was secure or insecure, what did that mean? And by and large, what we found is that most users define security as confidentiality. For example, R535 said, if it is secure, there is no way that someone outside can access the messages being sent or the list of group members without the permission of a group admin. So most users, by security, meant no one could read their messages, and some of them meant no one could tell who was in their group. Now, how did users decide if a group chat tool was secure? The main two methods were popularity and reputation of the tool. For example, R719 shared, if there are a lot of positive reviews from users of the instant messaging tool, it leads me to believe that it is secure for group communications. In addition, I look for what my friends and family use because I trust their opinions and what is safe. However, I understand that full security is unlikely and I must make efforts to maintain security in group chats. And that last bit is very significant because most users, even though they did trust that some tools were secure, still took measures or felt they needed to take measures to protect themselves. So what were some of those security strategies? Well, the first one was group management. So many of the users that we surveyed felt that they needed to carefully manage who was in their group. For example, R283 shared, in some groups, the members share private and sensitive information. In groups with this sort of trust, it's important to get permission from the whole group before adding new members so that the atmosphere of security can be maintained. Again, R288 shared, I don't feel that I can control them, but I do take into account who is a member of the group and what I feel comfortable sharing with them. So group management is one of the main strategies used. Again, R802 said, dependent on the group members and my trust of them rather than the technology. Now this is huge. Rather than the technology. What this respondent is saying is they rely on their own ability to control who is in their group rather than relying on the chat tool to be secure. And what we found is that most users use these types of non-technical strategies like group management in order to stay secure. Now, another non-technical strategy that was used is self-filtering. For example, R271 said, I realize that I can't trust my communication is 100% secure, so I am just careful in what I say, especially with the way that the creators of internet apps, social media platforms, etc. are constantly breaching or violating the privacy of users and selling information. Again, R155 said, I never say anything I couldn't say in front of my grandmother. Now, both of these are examples of self-filtering, where the user is careful about what they say because they concern someone in the group, or maybe the chat tool itself or the platform that they're on may misuse the information. Another concern that users had was how to establish identity. How can you trust the people in your group chat? For example, R218 said, I didn't know the person, and so I felt uncomfortable that they could be anyone, and I wasn't quite sure how they were invited to the group chat in the first place. And R625 shared, if you know the person in real life, you could ask them questions that only that person would know. So this is a strategy for how this user could identify other group chat users. Also, if you have another way of contacting the person, you could contact them and ask them to verify that it is in fact them. So in order to establish identity, users used information they knew about people in real life, and this was the main method. So it's obvious that this is insufficient and that we need better methods to help users establish trust and identity in group chat. Now I want to share, kind of summarize our results in terms of the dimensions of privacy identified by Mulligan et al. So one of those is dimension of provision. How do people provide privacy for themselves? And what we found is that respondents relied on themselves rather than their tool to protect their privacy. The next was the dimension of harm. So what are users concerned about? And mainly we found that they were concerned about other untrustworthy users or association. Only a few of the respondents were concerned with things like government surveillance. We also found regarding the dimension of scope, so what is the scope of privacy, is that respondents wanted their group chat data to remain private to their group indefinitely. Finally, what did we find regarding similarities between the US and the UK? Respondents in the US and UK defined privacy and security in group chat very similarly. We found very few statistically significant differences. This result does not mean that their broader views on security and privacy are the same. However, what it may mean is that we can design group chat tools that are secure and private and meet the needs of users in both the US and the UK without modifications for one of those nations specifically. So a group chat tool should be able to meet the needs of both nations simultaneously. Finally, let's discuss these results and talk about how we can make group chat tools better. So here's a snapshot of our main findings. 1, users rely on self-filtering and careful group management to protect themselves. 2, users' biggest concerns are that untrusted group members or third parties would be able to read their private messages. And 3, users want to know who they are talking to, but also occasionally need pseudo-anonymous communication because of fear of association. So how can we bridge the gap? And what we're going to talk about in this section is some of the ways that existing tools fall short in helping users to remain secure and private, and how can we make them better? So first, existing tools are missing some functionality. For example, they need better methods to help users manage group membership. And they need better methods to help users intelligently filter what they share to protect their private data. In addition to missing functionality, there's also a lack of parity of functionality between one-to-one chat and group chat. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, there are some things where it makes sense in one chat, but then not in group chat for the user. For example, if you block a user in one-to-one chat, that doesn't necessarily block them in group chat, which is really confusing and strange, right? And this is true in WhatsApp, GroupMe, and Facebook Messenger. Again, in Snapchat, in one-to-one chat, it defaults to end-to-end encryption, but it doesn't default to end-to-end encryption for group chat. Again, why would a user expect that behavior? There's just a lack of parity there between one-to-one and group. Again, something that falls under this category is that key verification may be more burdensome in a group chat context. So how can we bridge the gap? How can we help users be more secure and improve existing tools? First, we could help users identify sensitive information by using keywords to notify users before they share potentially compromising information. Now, this could be a privacy concern because the tool will have access to what the user is typing, but there are a couple ways we could address that. First, the users could mark which group chats the tool should watch, so they should only allow the tool to watch certain chats to protect them. Second, the data from this textual analysis needs to be stored locally on the device in order to protect the privacy of the user. Now, this is an area that needs more research in order to help users avoid sharing sensitive information in the wrong context. Another thing tools could do is to have better group management built in. For example, it's really easy to miss when a new member is added to a group in a lot of group chat tools because it's just a message in the group chat. And if there are a lot of messages in your group chat, then that message is going to get bumped out and you may never even realize a new member was added. So persistent notifications or annotations may help address this issue where the user is forced or given the opportunity to acknowledge the new group member before that notification goes away. Another issue that group chat tools could do a better job of addressing is to help users establish trust. And one way they could do this is to annotate other users in the chat based on a web of trust model. And this should be effective. Web of trust should be effective for group chat because group chat is both closed and instantaneous, and those properties are beneficial for establishing a web of trust. Finally, let's wrap up. If you guys have any questions, please contact me at the email address listed there on the slide. Thank you so much for joining this presentation, and I really hope you guys check out our paper for the complete analysis of this data.